Good evening. The following is a live broadcast for the City of Kingsport Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Board meetings are regularly scheduled on the first and third Tuesdays of each month at 7 p.m. In advance of the BMA meeting, a copy of the agenda is available for inspection at the Kingsport Public Library, City Hall, or online at kingsporttn.gov.
Good evening. Welcome to the Kingsport Board of Mayor and Alderman business meeting. This is the meeting where we vote. The first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by the New Vision Youth. This is a youth group headed up by Ms. Johnny Mae Swaggerty, one of our community leaders. And by the way, congratulations, Johnny Mae. You're going to be in the Dobbins Bennett Hall of Fame here before long. And then that'll be followed, please remain standing, that'll be followed by the invocation by Pastor Greg Burton from the Colonial Heights Baptist Church. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My first time in this fine facility, I think I would call this good stewardship. Let us pray. Good evening, Father. It is good when brothers and sisters can come together and agree. And it is good that those responsible for us have our best interest for justice and fairness, for protection and service, for building a sense of paternity. Lord, I ask that you would give wisdom where needed, courage where needed, but also that you would be a blessing to each member of our leadership team here, this council, for their family, for their children and grandchildren, and those that live under their roof, that they might sense a pleasure from the Almighty for doing the job that they're supposed to do. Tonight we set aside all pretense, and as citizens of this earth, we beg you. In fact, we cry for mercy for the people of the Ukraine. We cry for mercy for the injustice being done them, for the atrocities done them, for churches that can't meet, for businesses that must close, for children killed in the streets, for parents who have no hope. May we see their courage and join it with our prayer that the God above would work in the lives, the minds, the hearts of leaders on all sides to bring peace and justice and restore a life that everyone is begging for. This we give to you tonight as citizens of Kingsport in the name of our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. And thank you, Miss Johnny Mae and the youth. Please be seated. Madam Recorder, please call the roll.
Mayor Shull.
Here.
Vice Mayor George.
Here.
Alderman Cooper.
Here.
Alderman Duncan.
Here.
Alderman Montgomery.
Here.
Alderman Ultraman.
Here.
Alderman Phillips.
Thank you. All 7 elected members are present, as well as the city manager and appropriate staff. Mr. City Manager.
Okay, we have 2 recognitions on the agenda tonight. The first one is the Red Cross Month Proclamation, and Mayor Shull is going to go to the podium to deliver that proclamation.
Come on up and join me. This is Miss Dawn Day from the local chapter of the American Red Cross. And I'm going to read the proclamation. But first, let me say I really appreciate what the Red Cross does. As a retired soldier, I'm very aware of the assistance that you provide to soldiers, other military folks, other services, and their families, and connecting them, particularly in times of tragedy and so forth. But that's among the many good things y'all do. This is the City of Kingsport Proclamation. Whereas in 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross. I didn't serve with her, Chris. Okay. Turning her steadfast dedication for helping others into a bold mission of preventing and alleviating people's suffering. And whereas today, more than 140 years later, we honor the kindness and generosity of Red Cross volunteers here in Kingsport who continue to carry out Clara's life-saving legacy. And whereas in Kingsport, the contributions of local Red Cross volunteers give hope to the most vulnerable in their darkest hours, whether it's providing emergency shelter, food, and comfort for families devastated by local disasters, donating essential blood for accident and burn victims, and organ transplant patients, or supporting service members and veterans, along with their families and caregivers, through the unique challenges of military life. And whereas their work to prevent and alleviate human suffering is vital to strengthening our community's resilience, and whereas we now dedicate this month of March to all those who continue to advance the noble legacy of American Red Cross founder Clara Barton, who lived by her words, quotes, "You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it," end quote. We ask others to join in this commitment to give back in our community. Now, therefore, I, Patrick W. Scholl, Mayor, City of Kingsport, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2022 as Red Cross Month in Kingsport, and encourage all citizens to reach out and support its humanitarian mission. Signed this day by me, Patrick W. Scholl, Mayor. And again, thank you very much for the great work that not only the professionals who work every day at the Red Cross, but the many volunteers, and I would encourage Kingsporters to volunteer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say something?
Just want to say thank you very much for, this is Red Cross Month, and Clara Barton was an amazing person. And like Mayor Schultz said, we need volunteers in Kingsport, so we'll be glad to get you into our mission. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next recognition will be for the Best Farmers Market in East Tennessee Award, despite Christy Leonard, and Alderman Duncan will be.
This is really a good night because the farmers market is recognized not only here, but it's recognized across the state too. And just a little bit of a history on the farmers market. It was started in 1977, and so it was by farmers that was looking for a place to sell their produce to the public, and some of you even remember like some of the lots downtown and stuff. They were there for a long time. And then in 2012, they moved to the current location at the farmers markets. And so it's been going strong ever since. Each week, there's between 50 and 55 vendors. And it is everything from, I say from apples to zucchinis and from bread to beans. But it's everything that you can just cover, and including live music. It's just on and on. The cooking classes, if you've been and watched Saturday with the Chef, is always fun. Plus you get to sample. And then pumpkin decorations is always a great day. And so Tomato Fest and other crafts as well. So it's just a fun day to spend. It's open from October to November for the most part. And Bob Fegans says that the Chamber Dinner is the social event of the year, and I would argue that probably the social event of the year is probably the farmers market each and every Saturday, as hundreds of people come down to that. So Christy does an amazing job, and as well as Maxine. The market is award-winning for at least two things it placed in the state: for the website, and I think that was through Maxine, and then in third place was for social media, and I know that Christy does most of the social media. So it's certainly an asset to our area, and so I just invite everybody that's watching tonight to, it's like preaching to the choir here, because I know everybody here goes. So with that said and done, this came from the Tennessee Senate, And so that's why it's got this fancy emblem on the front there, I guess. So, and it's signed by a bunch of people too. We'll get to that in a second. So, a resolution to recognize the Kingsport Farmers Market on being named the best farmers market in East Tennessee. Whereas it is fitting that the members of the legislative body should pay tribute to those exemplary organizations that support our farmers' livelihood as they work long hours to provide safe, homegrown, fresh fruits and vegetables and homemade products for the nutrition of Tennessee's communities. And whereas one such worthy agriculture endeavor is the Kingsport Farmers Market, which was recently honored to be the best farmers market in East Tennessee by the readers of the Tennessee Magazine as part of the Best of Tennessee's Reader's Choice Awards. Whereas the Kingsport Farmers Market has truly excelled in a mission to provide vibrant, diverse marketplace for local and regional farmers and artisans to sell their products to the Kingsport community. And whereas the Kingsport Farmers Market and its manager, Christy Leonard, truly demonstrate the Kingsport spirit through the seamless operation of this facility, which is open April through November on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Whereas we are pleased to specially recognize the many dedicated people who have worked both the front and behind the scenes to make Kingsport's Farmers Market the best in the entire region. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 112th General Assembly and of the State of Tennessee, the House of Representatives concurring that we are honor and congratulate the management, employees, farmers, artisans, and customers of the Kingsport Farmers Market on the happy occasion of it being named the best farmers market in East Tennessee, and thank them for their hard work, vision, and ongoing commitment to promoting fresh, homegrown produce and homemade farm products for the great benefit of both Tennessee agriculture community and citizens. And it is signed by John Lindberg, Bud Halsey, Speaker Randy McNally, and the Governor, Bill Lee. So thank you very much. And congratulations. And that was a lot.
Okay. Christy and Maxine, thank you very much. You know, Mr. City Manager, the public recognizes Christy through her work at the farmers market, but that's just part of the many things she does and represents the city very well in all her endeavors. Thank you. Mr. City Manager, you go ahead.
All right, the first item you have is an appointment to the Kingsport Public Library Commission. It's recommended to reappoint Kate Harden, appoint Julie Hammonds, replacing Lane Dukart, and appoint Joe Ewing, replacing Melissa Hamby. We'd ask that you approve these appointments, please.
Thank you. Ask the board for a motion to approve. Moved by Alderman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Montgomery. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the proposal, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is to approve the minutes from the work session on February 14th, 2022, the business meeting on February 15th, 2022, and the strategic planning session on February 25th, 2022. We'd ask that you approve these minutes as submitted, please.
Thank you. Of course, we have three different minutes to approve. Do I hear a motion? Moved by Alderman Duncan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of all three sets of minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager, I see we have no public hearings, so I'll proceed into the comment section. This section of our proceedings is for the citizens to come forward and speak to the board on items that are on our agenda. The agenda that we're going to vote on, and there's copies that are provided right in the hallway right before you enter this chamber. And so anyway, if citizens may speak on agenda items. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address and sign the register that is provided. You're encouraged to keep your comments non-personal in nature, and they should be limited to 5 minutes. A total of 30 minutes is allocated for public comment during this part of the agenda. And let me add, later on in our agenda, there's a part where the public can come forward and speak of items of general civic interest. but for right now, it's just items covered by the agenda. Are there any members of the public that wish to come forward? If not, I declare this part of the meeting to be adjourned, and we'll pick back up with the regular meeting. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a budget adjustment ordinance for various funds in fiscal '22. As you can see on here, we're hitting three primary areas: the general fund, the regional sales tax fund, and then also transferring some money through the visitor enhancement fund, which is a portion of the hotel motel tax that the city retains. This is going to the aquatic center. As we stated during our strategic planning session, we've thus far seen a very good year in our sales tax collections as well as our property tax collections. Not only does this adjustment make the adjustments that you see here in this work on this action form, it also allows us to return money back to the fund balance that we took out for some capital projects earlier this year. And as with everything that we're continuing to look at is rising costs and inflation, there's also money set aside here for fuel in case that exceeds what we have budgeted already this year. So good work by John Morris and Lisa Winkle and others as we've managed through this fiscal year thus far. Very pleased with the results, but also at the same time recognizing increased cost and trying to adjust where we can.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
Various fund budgets year ending June 30, 2022, and to fix the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman. Alderman, any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item passes 7-0. Let me pause, Mr. City Manager. If it looks like tonight that we're going through these rather quickly, it's because we've all, as individuals, met one-on-one with the city manager and been over these items in detail. Then prior to this business meeting, we have what we call a work session, and we go over it as a group. We're not allowed to vote at that meeting. We're only allowed to vote at this business meeting, or if we had a called business meeting, which for a special reason. So we are deliberating, but we're familiar with the items we're voting on. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of an ordinance to appropriate funding from the Criminal Forfeiture Fund and the Drug Fund to establish a project for the police department and a resolution to authorize the purchase of one tactical rescue vehicle. Last night at our work session, Police Chief Dale Phipps did a very good job of kind of walking through what we are requesting to purchase. At the end of the day, the primary purpose behind this vehicle is to help save lives in that event that our police officers are put in a situation where they would need to have protection. As you heard not too long ago in an update from Chief Phipps, assaults on officers, not only here in Kingsport but nationwide, is on the rise. We've definitely seen more of that than we have recently. And this will be a vehicle that, should it need to be used, we believe would be very beneficial for our police department. I also wanted to note that the funding for this comes from the Criminal Forfeiture Fund, the Drug Fund. As Chief Phipps said last night, in essence, the bad guys are paying for this.
Instead of the taxpayers.
Instead of the taxpayers. So it's good use of these dollars. Appreciate the recommendation for us to look down this path as possible funding through our budget officer, John Morris, earlier this year as we were looking at the fiscal '23 budget. So we'd ask that you approve this item, please.
Thank you, and I agree with you that Chief Phipps did articulate the need for this very well. And Chief, we understand that the job of your force is to go in the way of danger, but we also feel a strong obligation of the board to try and mitigate that danger if we can. Therefore, Mr. Attorney, please publish.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase order to International Armored Groups, U.S., Inc., for the purchase of one tactical rescue vehicle for use by the Kingsport Police Department.
Thank you. And Mr. Attorney, we'll vote on the resolution, then we'll come back and vote on the ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
So move.
Moved by Alderman Montgomery. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Phillips. Any discussion?
When will we get this? I know that, I mean, is it
back-ordered like a lot of things. I want to see it. I hope you never have to use it, but I definitely want to sit in it.
Can be bought for a ride.
Yes.
What I'm told, it's about a 6 to a 7 month
Okay.
wait period for it. I mean, obviously, they've got to construct it from ground up. So
Around
it-
July 4th, we can look.
I don't know about that, but regardless, yeah, about a 6 to 7 month window.
And I appreciate the fact last night when you said, we're glad to have it, but we hope we never have to use it, so,
Right. Yeah, that's the goal.
yes.
Good question.
Yep.
Any other questions for the chief or comments? If not, all those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The resolution passes 7-0. Mr. Attorney, please publish the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend the various fund budgets for the year ending June 30, 2022, and to fix the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading?
So move.
Moved by Alderman Montgomery. Is there a second? Second. Second by Alderman Duncan. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the ordinance, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a resolution awarding the bid to Dell Construction for the replacement of sewer lift stations number 108 Oak Glen Drive, number 307 Lakeside Drive, and number 308 Cooks Valley Road, and a budget ordinance to transfer the funds. As we have stated before, these sewer lift stations have a certain life cycle. They reach end of life. It's time to replace them. Very pleased with the fact that we had 5 bidders. The low bid actually came in under what our estimate was, which is always a good thing. And so we'd ask that you approve the resolution authorizing this work to be done by Frizzell Construction and then approving the ordinance to fund this.
Thank you. By the way, Ryan and Michael, the work, you don't have to come up, the work that the Public Works and the sewer guys did up on Fair Acres looks great. I drove by it today. They did a great job. Mr. Attorney, please read the resolution.
A resolution awarding the bid for the replacement of sewer lift stations number 108, number 307, and number 308 to Frizzell Construction, and authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement for the same and all documents necessary and proper to effectuate the purpose of the agreement.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. Attorney, please publish the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend the sewer project fund budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022, and to fix the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance associated with this action?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Phillips. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Cooper. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 42, Article 3 of the Code of Ordinances as it relates to the International Fire Code, Appendix D, specifications for fire apparatus access roads. This is on second and final reading, and we'd ask that you approve the ordinance, please.
This item and the next 3 are all ordinances on second reading, therefore they will require a roll call vote. But first, Mr. Attorney, please publish this item.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Kingsport, Tennessee, Chapter 42, Article 3, and to fix the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Alderman Duncan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor. Any discussion? If not, Madam Recorder, please take the vote.
Alderman Cooper.
Aye.
Alderman Duncan. Aye. Vice Mayor George.
Aye.
Alderman Montgomery.
Aye.
Alderman Alterman.
Aye.
Alderman Phillips.
Aye.
Mayor Schul.
Aye, the item passes 7-0. Next item.
Next item is consideration of a resolution on budget ordinance awarding a contract for the Cat's Garage Maintenance Facility Project. This is on second and final reading. We'd ask that you approve the ordinance, please.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
An ordinance to amend the general fund and the general project fund budgets for the year ending June 30, 2022, and to fix the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman. Any discussion? Well, I think the last time we met, you made a very good case for this, Mr. City Manager, a needed item that will help preserve our bus fleet. If no further discussion, Madam Recorder, please take the vote.
Alderman Cooper,
Aye.
Alderman Duncan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor George,
Aye.
Alderman Montgomery,
Aye.
Alderman Alterman, Alderman Phillips,
Aye.
Mayor Schul.
Aye, the item passes 7-0. Next item.
Next item is consideration of a budget adjustment ordinance for the general fund in fiscal '22. This was put in place, allowing us to add an additional full-time billing fiscal assistant position within our finance department. So we'd ask that you approve this ordinance on second and final reading, please.
And last time we talked about this, you talked us through the need for succession, planning for people, retirement and all that, and that was a good discussion. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
An ordinance to amend the general fund budget by adding a billing fiscal assistant position for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022, and to fix the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Montgomery. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Vice Mayor. Is there any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Alderman Cooper,
Aye.
Alderman Duncan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor George,
Aye.
Alderman Montgomery,
Aye.
Alderman Alterman, Alderman Phillips,
Aye.
Mayor Schul.
Aye, the item passes 7-0. Next item.
Next item is consideration of a budget adjustment ordinance for the general fund, the general projects fund in fiscal '22. This provided money for a new RFID system for the library, and then also provided some additional operating dollars for PetWorks.
Let me put you on the spot. The county commission just voted to add more money to Kingsport. Well, I would have put you on the spot for PetWorks. Is that correct?
It went through the first committee. It has not gone through budget yet.
Okay.
But the first committee did approve moving PetWorks as a category into the budget committee for their recommendation.
You're optimistic?
I am optimistic.
Okay, good. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
An ordinance to amend the general fund and the general project fund budgets for the year ending June 30, 2022, and to fix the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Duncan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Vice Mayor. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Alderman Cooper,
Aye.
Alderman Duncan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor George,
Aye.
Alderman Montgomery,
Aye.
Alderman Alterman, Alderman Phillips,
Aye.
Mayor Schul.
Aye, it passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
All right, now move into some new business items. The next is consideration of a resolution endorsing the East Center Street Corridor Study, final report and recommendations. Last night, we had a great presentation from the consultant through Kimley Horn regarding this project. This is a project that we actually started back in the spring of 2021. This is a Center Street, for the most part, is a state route. And so because it's a state route, we went to the state of Tennessee. We were able to do a grant that covered 90% of the total cost of the planning study. And really, through this study, we have been given several recommendations. We've been given options that have been vetted through several public meetings as to what could be done to Center Street. As I have said before, and as we discussed last night, these documents are very helpful. They're helpful from the standpoint of allowing us to understand what we can do with the road. It's also very helpful as we look at the land use and we look at the possibility of changing land use in this area. What can the road do in order to support that, possibly enhance that? And then also an item that we've had a lot of conversations about in here over the last probably 5 to 6 years is how do we continue to enhance the corridors that lead into our downtown? And that really was probably a focal point of the entire conversation throughout this whole study, as we saw from really the feedback that we got from the public. We also heard last night through the data that the consultant collected that we are presently have a road that's operating far under the capacity that it could operate under, which means it has the potential to handle additional cars based upon the present geometric layout that it has, number of lanes and everything. So we'll take this information upon your all's approval. This will kind of be worked into our plans. We'll look at things to implement. As we have done with roads in the past, sometimes we'll look at making adjustments maybe as it pertains to pedestrian movements along that corridor, and then potentially move into there through some other things. But this will be a process that we'll work through over a period of time. We're very grateful for this grant. As you know, we've applied for another grant to look at the John B. Dennis corridor in and around where Sullivan North High School is. We're hopeful we can get that. Again, this really helps us as we seek future funds and possibly even getting additional grant dollars for construction.
Well, I'm going to put this on the floor first, but I'm interested in saying a few words about it, and I'd be interested in my colleagues if they want to talk about it. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
To endorse the East Center Street Corridor Study, final report and recommendations by the Tennessee Department of Transportation through the Urban Transportation Planning Grant.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Alderman Montgomery. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Vice Mayor. Any discussion other than me? I'll lead off. Last night after our work session, I got interviewed by the young man from WJHL, and I guess it came on the 11 o'clock news. I was asleep, so I missed it. But I did urge citizens to contact us, with their input. And a couple of citizens contacted me, and one of them didn't like the idea of bike lanes. Another one wanted to go back to 4 lanes. And you know what I should have said, I guess, to them, particularly in the interview last night, I probably should have said, look, go back and look at the documents that our public affairs folks, Ms. Adrienne Botero over there I'm looking at, have published on our website and so forth, and study the plan. Look at the charts that we looked at and go through it. Because the survey that they took of our Kingsport citizens, it was pretty strong approval for the idea and the beautification of the roadway and so forth, so on. So I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, I don't like bike lanes or I want to go to 4 lanes. I mean, as you've just pointed out, the traffic counts you did show that it's not as congested as people seem to think. In other words, the traffic does move fairly quickly. Colleagues, do you all have any comments about it? No?
Well, I thought it was a really good presentation last night. I thought some of the things that they put forth were very informative. I was surprised at how many people cross Center Street where we do not have any crosswalks.
Right.
I know driving from Center Street, east, you do have a lot of people that are walking back and forth across the street, and when you press that, if the sun's wrong, it's really difficult to see, and I still was surprised at the number and some of the things that they were presenting, which would help with public safety.
Yeah.
I thought those were really good recommendations, and something that we probably really do need to think about if we have that many of our citizens trying to cross that street.
Right.
I think a lot of people, if you grew up here and you're used to Kingsport traffic, then Center Street does seem busy. If, people moving here for other areas can't believe that the traffic that we complain about is our traffic.
Right.
Because people are used
That's
to
a
a
great
lot
point.
more congestion and when school lets out, around Powell's, around Chick-fil-A and things, and you do have some backups. But I thought it was a very interesting presentation, and I was glad that they reached out to as many of our citizens as they did, and I hope people look at the whole thing and what some of the benefits are, and that we can walk down the path of what benefits the citizens the most first in terms of things like safety, but also does make it a beautiful way to come into Kingsport.
Great remarks. I mean, we, the board here, we're not trying to be arbitrary about this. We've looked at the report, we've heard the briefing, and we urge citizens to review for themselves and don't just, react to what you heard maybe somebody else say.
I think it's worth saying too, I mean, there was multiple options in that as well, so.
Right.
Whether you accept, option 1, 2, or 3, but there was some different plans in that, or you
Right.
don't accept any of them, but anyway, it was
Right.
different options towards.
And I was awake at 11. I did watch the news.
I hope I was coherent.
Yes, you were. But the thing that as I watched the news and watched, I kept thinking, it's just a study. It's not a plan. We're not, ready to pull a trigger on anything yet. So it's just a study and a guiding document when things can happen. So I said, it's not you, but it was presented at the first, like it was something that we'd already, was already.
Like a done deal.
Done deal. It was
Yeah.
already set in motion, but not just a study that we can use, as we have opportunities to work on that road, so.
And with grant money.
And with grant money, yes.
It's a low-cost study too.
But it was,
know.
yes.
So to have that, to know what, because one thing that I appreciated that they did say is because we now have this study, we're in much better position to receive grant money to work on some of these projects. And it said when it comes to
And
the
pay
safety,
the majority of the cost.
yes.
All right.
And when it comes to the safety of our citizens, if we can have something in place to get grant money to start down some of these paths, I think that's a great opportunity.
And it is a gateway to the community. I was just thinking when we were talking about cats, I said now coming in that direction from what it was, when it was the foundry, when the foundry just was torn down, it's such a, it's enhanced the entrance coming that direction too. So that was on my mind just a minute ago when we were talking about the garage, that corridor, that entrance into downtown, is pretty now, so.
Okay, anybody else?
Well, I participate in a lot of the work there. and
Yeah, Paul.
They've done very good work, and I think we need to think of it in terms of a master plan. And that, when you think of that, that kind of brings it all together.
Anybody else? James?
When they presented at planning, all I'll add is everything, everybody said everything that can be said, except for when I was in planning commission and they presented, I asked about, if you're running certain things down the medians, by Dr. Rogers' office or by Farmers Insurance down that way, have you thought about the businesses? Because you do have people trying to turn left to get into those businesses coming from the Dobbins Bennett way. And so they have thought about that. They've talked to those businesses. And so, any of those three options are adjustable as well. And so I think to Betsy's point, when somebody sees on the news or whatever that we're endorsing a corridor study, I think they immediately go to, we're putting forward a plan that's going to be executed just like the picture you see on here, but they don't realize there's three options and they're still able to be tweaked. But the benefit is just everything that Colette said.
Right, our transportation planner, Ms. Phillips, visited all those businesses, and they were,
No relation.
no relation to him, that's right. But they were all
Brings up your point. I
good
asked
with it.
about the inconvenience of it, because for so many residents and businesses there, so I asked about the inconvenience of it.
Anything else? Okay, I'm going to take the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a resolution authorizing the city manager to issue a purchase order to Dell Marketing LP for the purchase of 2,000 student Chromebooks and 1,000 Chrome licenses. Again, as we have said in the past, this is coming to you all as the school board and the city schools are looking to replace some of the Chromebooks they have as they begin to look forward to the school year this fall. And we'd ask that you approve this resolution for the purchase, please.
And thank you. This item and the next three are all for our Board of Education. And when they develop requirements that monetarily related by our law, it has to come to this board for approval. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase order to Dell Marketing LP pursuant to Tennessee Central Procurement Office Contract Number 49580 for 2,000 student Chromebooks and 1,000 Chrome licenses for use by the Kingsport City Schools.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Phillips. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Montgomery. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager?
Next item is consideration of a resolution awarding the bid of a training and assessment system for certified technician supply chain automation and authorizing the city manager to issue a purchase order to technical training aids. This is a training system for various CTE programs within city schools. It's being funded through a Carl Perkins grant, and we'd ask that you approve this resolution, please.
Okay, and I bet when we get to the end, there'll be people who want to talk about CTE. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
A resolution awarding the bid and authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase order to technical training aids for a training and assessment system for the Certified Technician Supply Chain Automation, CT-SCA, certification for Kingsport City Schools.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? So moved by Alderman Duncan. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Montgomery. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a resolution to authorize the city manager to execute a purchase order for 215 Dell Latitude 5320 laptops and active pens for teachers. Just as we're buying computers for the students, these are replacement computers coming in for our teachers. They are also, these will be purchased through the ESSER funds, and again, getting prepared for this fall.
ESSER funds being the federal program related to the COVID pandemic.
Correct.
You know, we didn't have this stuff when I was in Kingsport City Schools.
Computers?
I had a crayon.
Right. You had the Spanish flu, though, right?
No. That was 1918.
Oh,
Very
I'm
good.
sorry.
Mr. Attorney, please publish.
A resolution awarding the city manager to execute a purchase order to Dell Marketing LP pursuant to Tennessee Central Procurement Office Contract number 49580 for 215 Dell Latitude 5320 laptops and active pens for use by Kingsport City Schools.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I got an active pen.
So moved by Alderman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cooper. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 8-passenger vans for the Dobbins High School activities. Again, 3 vans. One of these is a replacement van that's moving into Cora Cox. And again, this is being funded through the School Activities Fund, which is an internal account. So we'd ask that you approve this resolution authorizing this purchase.
They might be wearing out their vans going to the state tournament, Tom. That's right. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
Authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase order for the purchase of 3 8-passenger vans for Dobbins Bennett High School activities, to execute any and all other documents necessary and proper to effectuate the purpose of this resolution.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Vice Mayor. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a resolution awarding the bid for 130 Samsung 69.5 smart LED LCD televisions with Tizen internal operating systems and authorizing the city manager to issue a purchase order to Y&S Technologies. Again, this comes from the school board, and again, it's another item that's being funded through the ESSER fund. So we'd ask that you approve this resolution authorizing this purchase, please.
Okay, Mr. Attorney, please publish.
A resolution awarding the bid and authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase order to Y&S Technologies for the purchase of 130 Samsung 69.5-inch smart LED LCD televisions with Tizen internal operating systems for Kingsport City Schools.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Alderman Duncan, seconded by Alderman Montgomery. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a resolution authorizing the purchase of radios from AMK Services for the Public Works Department. During the budget process in May and then more recently this fall, we talked about setting aside funding for the replacement of these radios that simply have just reached the end of life. So we're pleased to bring this to you and ask that you approve this resolution authorizing this purchase.
Okay, Mr. Attorney, please publish.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase order for radios for use by various groups within the Public Works Department.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Montgomery. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a resolution to purchase 8 Ford Interceptor SUV all-wheel drive from the Tennessee State contract. As we discussed last night, many of our sedans are now being replaced in the police department with an SUV. A lot of that simply has to do with the amount of equipment that our officers are now having to carry with them. The SUV provides us some additional space for that. And so, once again, we're able to purchase these through the state contract. We'd ask that you approve.
Which is more economical, the state contract?
Right now, it is more economical, yes.
Okay. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase order for the purchase of 8 Ford Interceptor all-wheel drive sport utility vehicles for use by the Kingsport Police Department and to execute any and all other documents necessary and proper to effectuate the purpose of this resolution.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Phillips. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
Next item is consideration of a resolution accepting the proposal for solid waste disposal by EcoSafe Systems LLC, doing business as Waste Management, and authorizing the mayor to execute all applicable documents. Really appreciate the work that's been done by several folks within our Public Works and our Streets and Sanitation group as it pertains to not only this bid, but also the review of this bid and the recommendation that you have here. As I read, the proposal that is presented is to go with EcoSafe. This will be a 5-year agreement with the option for 5 one-year renewals. Again, the work that we've done was in preparation of the fact that our present agreement with Advanced Disposal expires this coming August. And so appreciate the work that has been done by the group, and we recommend that you all approve this resolution.
Yes, and thanks, Public Works and Purchasing, because this was a pretty involved bid process. Mr. Attorney, please publish.
A resolution accepting the proposal for disposal of solid waste materials submitted by EcoSafe Systems LLC, DBA Waste Management, and authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement for the same and all other documents necessary and proper to effectuate the purpose of the agreement.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Duncan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Mr. City Manager.
All right, now move into the consent agenda. We have 6 items on the agenda. I'll read through those. If you would like one pulled for additional discussion, please let me know. First item is consideration of a resolution approving a facility use agreement with American Red Cross. Second item is consideration of a resolution to reject all bids for the J. Fred Johnson Stadium lighting and sound upgrade. Third item is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for E-rate Category 2 network equipment for fiscal year 22-23. Fourth item is consideration of a resolution ratifying the mayor's signature on the certification of local government approval for the 2022 Emergency Solutions Grant application. Fifth item is a resolution to support restoring the historic revenue sharing relationship between the state of Tennessee and its local governments and to return the local share of the single article cap to local governments. The sixth item is consideration of resolution to approve the actuarial study for the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System. So again, happy to pull one of the, if you'd like one of these pulled or more than one of these pulled, please let me know. If not, my recommendation is to approve all six.
Mr. City Manager, I don't want them pulled for a separate vote, at least I don't, but I would like you to speak to the resolution about revenue sharing for our public.
Absolutely. So this has been a long-standing position that the Tennessee Municipal League, which the City of Kingsport is a member of, has taken with the state of Tennessee. This really goes back to 2002 when the state of Tennessee increased the sales tax. And in doing so, they ended a decades-long agreement that they would share that portion of the sales tax with the locals. This has been in conversation. We recognize why it was done. It was necessary to be done at the time in order to shore up financially the state and the various things that they needed to do. But as we have seen and here locally, we've also seen on the state level, the state of Tennessee is very healthy from a financial standpoint at this point. And a lot of that is due to really sound decisions they have made over the last decade or more. And so the request has gone out by the Tennessee Municipal League to cities and towns all across the state of Tennessee for us to consider this resolution, to pass this resolution, and then to send that on to Nashville to our representatives to let them know that this is something that we stand behind and would like to see passed. Whether or not we'll see any action on that by the General Assembly this session is yet to be seen. There's a very good possibility it could be discussed over the summer and been brought back up next session.
And for our public, when the state devises the method for assigning sales tax value, they distinguish between small things like the pen, food, and large items like a car.
Correct.
And we don't get the same percent back on a large item like a car that we do those other items.
Correct, and that's a kind of the second part of what this resolution is also speaking to, which is the cap on the single article item. So you mentioned the car, that's the best example of that. The desire is to see more of those dollars returned.
Yeah. As the vice mayor says, the city is the engine of economic activity, right? So do any members wish to have an item pulled for a separate vote? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
The vice mayor moves that we accept all 6 items as presented.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderman. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Recorder, please take the vote.
Alderman Cooper,
Aye to all.
Alderman Duncan,
Aye to all.
Vice Mayor George,
Aye to all.
Alderman Montgomery,
Aye to all.
Alderman Alterman,
Aye to all.
Alderman Phillips,
Aye to all.
Mayor Schul.
Aye to all 6 items, therefore all 6 items pass unanimously, 7-0 vote. Mr. City Manager.
All right, move into the communications portion of the agenda. I want to take just a second before I go over the rest of my remarks. On behalf of the city employees, the board, send our heartfelt prayers and thoughts out to the Darnell family. Kevin Darnell, a young man that worked within our Public Works Department, died unexpectedly over the weekend. And so we definitely, as I have said so many times, unfortunately too many times, over the last 2.5 years, we definitely hurt anytime we lose a member of our city family, and we're definitely hurting now. We definitely want to also keep in our thoughts and prayers Kevin's wife, Jennifer, and the rest of the family and their friends and the coworkers that are dealing with this loss. So we just ask that you all keep that family in your thoughts and prayers. Moving from that, the board, while this is our only meeting this month, it is somewhat of a busy month. Obviously, the work session last night, a lot of material that we presented to you all last night for consideration. We appreciate the time that you gave us for that. Next week, many of you all will be traveling with myself and our city attorney, Mike Billingsley, to Nashville for the Tennessee Municipal League legislative session. That's a 2-day session. It's always good from the standpoint that we get to hear from our reps, get to hear from other reps across the state. We also hear from folks within the governor's office, and gives us an idea of what is going to be on the floor in the last few weeks, months of the General Assembly, and gives us an idea of kind of what we might expect also in the coming year. In addition to that, we have a joint meeting coming up later this month with the Board of Education. A very important meeting, as it always is when we sit down and talk with them, but definitely as we talk about growth, as we look at renovation to many of our schools, the potential for new schools. It's a good opportunity to kind of share knowledge and kind of make sure we're on the right path moving forward. So I'll say that, and I'll just simply end with Roll Tribe.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for recognizing Mr. Darnell and his family. The board sends its condolences also. Let me start with Errol.
I appreciate it, Mayor. Just 2 or 3 things. Shenanigans is currently playing in Lamplight. I think Angie's in that, and it runs through March 20th, so check the website for that. KKB is about to get cranked up for a number of different things. They've got a gardening seminar that starts Thursday the 17th, and then the following Thursday. I've been to a couple of those a few years ago. They're very interesting and pretty well attended. And so they're from 11 to 1. The following Thursday, which is I think it's 24th, it's actually Glen Bruce Park. And typically you get some seedlings and some different things like that that kind of goes along with that. There's a number of cleanups scheduled through KKB. And March 19th is we'll meet at the parking lot behind HMG. And that's just off of Clinchfield. We had a very successful cleanup on Greenbelt last year right through there. And, so we thought we'd come back and hit it the first part of this year. And then the following week is the downtown cleanup, and we meet at Town Park Lofts and kind of hit that in the town. And then finally, today, the mayor and I went to a ribbon cutting today, and it was held. It's a company it's called Groups Recover Together, and it's an interesting type business because it's really it addresses the opioid issues that we have in this area, and so it's. Groups comes from, that's how they meet. They meet in certain groups, and it's easier to discuss the issues and problems that so many have. So our region is certainly in need of that for sure. And so we hope that they do well, and some of these people can get back to being rehabilitated and back into the work.
Thank you. Is that it, Daryl? That's it. Thank you. Ms. Betsy?
I don't have much. I encourage everyone to visit the library. I do this a lot. Visit the library website. I just pulled up their calendar of events for March, and they have everything from origami to storytelling to green and grow. So there's something at the library happening every day for a variety of interest. So check out their website. And I think that I can't go without saying that their hearts go out to the Ukraine, and I think we need to keep our world and our nation, our state, and our city in constant prayer. Just lift up constant prayer to all the troubles and the things that are happening in our world right now. It's a very disheartening and a very scary time. So just keep those people and everyone in your prayers.
Thank you. Paul?
Too, want to add my sincere thoughts and prayers for the people of Ukraine. I think that's we all share in that effort there. Also, congratulations to Dobbins Bennett for a 29-6 season and making the Elite Eight. It's a big achievement for the city. And in that regard, I like the momentum that I'm hearing throughout the city with the State Theater, the homes additions that we have, the economic development starting to give more announcements. I think we're in a good place, and I think the citizens will start to appreciate the efforts that have taken over the years.
Is that it?
Yep.
Thank you. James?
I'm fairly certain that Paul was cheating off of my notes here. But I just, about halfway through last week, I just was thinking to myself, holy cow, what a week this is for Kingsport. And, you know, we've been saying we're just waiting on that first domino to fall, and then the floodgates are going to open. And I feel like last week was that week that the real first domino fell. And I just jotted down some notes here that I'm going to run through for the 6 of you watching on the computers at home. But this is just what happened last week in Kingsport. And I'm leaving out many things, but these are some of the main things that happened. First of all, we started out on Monday at Dobbins Bennett having the first signing for 9 students, the work-based learning signing. And so 9 students were signing on with Eastman and Silgon, and it was a way to drum up excitement for, you know, it's not just the athletes that are signing and going on to places. It's also a big deal to sign on right out of high school, going to work for one of these companies. And so we went from there to the new TCAP facility at the North Campus, where, I mean, everybody knows by now that
Tennessee College of Applied Technology.
That's Tennessee College of Applied Technology, and we cut the ribbon on the new construction trades program. The governor was there. It was a wonderful presentation. I was in Nashville yesterday and today with the Home Builders Association, and our state legislators were talking about the presentation, saying good things. It was an incredible day. Then on the heels of that, Eastman announces a new partnership with a company out of London for a wood facility, which is going to bring in 300 construction jobs and 70 permanent jobs. We got the announcement about the State Theater being redone. We cut the ribbon on our new Food City downtown that has been remodeled and added around 2,000 square feet. Our home show this weekend increased in attendance over 2020, the last time we had it.
That's great.
Mid-City Grill opened a new restaurant downtown. We cut the ribbon at Create Appalachia, which was a big investment by many people in creating and facilitating new entrepreneurs. There's a lot of partnerships involved in that. We announced the press release went out for the Red, White, and Boom Independence Day celebration, which is going to feature 38 Special and the Garth Brooks Tribute Band, plus the largest Independence Day fireworks show we've ever had downtown. And then most importantly, the Tenderloin Biscuit is back at Pal's. So, but I mean, you think about all that happened in a week. And I mean, that is just an incredible week for the city, and I'm really excited. And I was very enthusiastic all week, and I was enthusiastic Monday and Tuesday in Nashville talking, and our legislators are excited. I just think, to Paul's point, citizens have got to be excited about what they hear going on. And I didn't even touch on the articles about the new retail that's looking to invest in the city that, is not ready to be shared yet. But I mean, there's big things happening, and I'm excited, obviously.
Okay, thank you, James. Tommy?
Well, being the #1 cheerleader at Dobbins Bennett, I'd like to take this opportunity to say that my Indians are playing good. They just need to capitalize a little bit more on about 4 games now, and we'll be right in the driver's seat.
Yeah, which means they're on to the state tournament.
They are on the
DB
state tournament now.
basketball boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, the girls had a good ride, but that last game was just a real heartbreaker. Yeah. Anything else, Tommy?
Well, yeah, I mean, don't cut me short.
No, go ahead.
He's trying to cut me short, Chris. But I would just like to reiterate that the Indians are playing good, and that if you have an opportunity to go see them, I invite everybody to go visit them and watch them and cheer for them, because they are exciting, and they have brought new life to that program, and it's great to see. And I think that'll conclude my remarks, Honorable Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
There's been a lot said because a lot happened, and I just wanted to add that Daryl and I did go and stand by for Arbor Day so that the city could plant a tree.
Thank you.
So we got one more tree in the ground. And, you know, just to mention that we do have a lot of homes being built, and we have a lot of people looking at moving in this area. And I think a lot of the people coming in are starting to find out what we already know about what a great place this is to live. And there are so many good announcements. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we do next week.
Well, you know, it is exciting.
No pressure.
All the news that we got, we have some citizens who write in the paper that, why is Kingsport lagging? I mean,
I think that's a misconception.
it really is. I mean, if they would just keep up just a little bit, then they'd be very proud of where they live.
Well, you're right. The items that were mentioned here by our members, particularly the laundry list here of James, were covered in the
that's right,
Times
James.
News. So I urge
That's right.
citizens to read our local
job, James.
newspaper. It's a great way of staying up. But in addition to that, our public affairs folks, led by Ms. Batera, they put out regular communications about what the city's doing, and we have a website, and, you know, there's ways to stay informed about what we do. And I stop the city manager during these proceedings and get him to explain things like sales tax and all that. It's not that we don't know that. It's that I always assume there's some new citizens that have moved here. I met a lady last night, she just moved recently from California. She loves it here. And I don't presume that they came from a council manager form of government type city. So I think it's always incumbent upon us to explain how things work here and why we do what we do. And I appreciate the city staff helping us do that. I'd just say that my colleagues here, these men and women on this board on either side of me, they truly have the best interest of our citizens at heart. And so they work to stay informed, they work to make good decisions and about what we do, and I appreciate that. And I just urge citizens to contact us if you have questions. So we've reached the point in our meeting where if citizens would like to come forward to the podium and speak on issue-oriented items, you can come to the podium and state your name and address and sign the register that is provided. You're encouraged to keep your comments non-personal in nature, and they should be limited to 5 minutes. Are there any citizens that wish to come forward? If not, there's one other thing. Some of my colleagues mentioned Ukraine. I'm the retired soldier here on the board. Let me say something. Americans are the good guys. We do not, I say again, we do not deliberately target civilians when we conduct combat operations. We take great pains to avoid civilian casualties. Your American armed services are the good guys. So anybody need to come forward to the board? If not, we're adjourned.
Thank you for joining us tonight for the Kingsport BMA meeting. This program has been a production of the City of Kingsport in cooperation with Milligan Productions, Milligan University, and Charter Communications. For more information, visit kingsporttn.gov.